When we talk about cybersecurity and we talk about future, what's the main issues we should consider?
Actually, what is interesting is to see the increasingly overlapping between cybersecurity and internet governance stakes. And I see many reasons actually in seeing this overlap between both fields. It's because first, some countries are actually seeking to blur the lines between both cybersecurity stakes and internet governance actually issues. I'm thinking of countries such as Russia or China, for example, which have been for 10 or 15 years pushing their own draft treaties and convention and so on information security and so on, so advocating for a much more greater role of the state in ensuring sovereignty on their own cyberspace, etc., etc. So this is one trend, and the second trend, of course, is linked to the what I would call the post-node and aftermath. So this is movements seeking to contest the role of the US in the cyberspace, in the management of the security and the governance of cyberspace. And in Europe, for example, many countries and even EU institutions have sought to study how they can reach some kind of digital sovereignty. So actually, at the EU level as well, there is strong cybersecurity concerns, and which are taking a new dimension, I would say, especially today with the threat coming from Russia over Ukraine, for example. So both trends actually reinforce themselves, and now today, when we study governance of the internet, we cannot exclude actually the security components of it.
So it's a problem of not of one country or one region, but it's all over the world, all European.
I mentioned the EU, of course, because we live here in the EU, and it's the most striking example today. But of course, it's a global issue. So you have the same stakes, for example, in the Far East, in China, Japan, and so on. Japan today is highly concerned of the role of the Chinese companies and states in cyber attacks and so on. So this is an issue that we find, of course, in East Asia, that we find in the Middle East because of the conflicts we have today in the region, and that we have, of course, between several regions of the world. So between the US and China, between the US and Russia, of course. So it's a purely global issue, I would say.
We can say that somebody or some region is special, I don't know, vulnerable, harmful for this cyber attacks.
Again, I would mention the EU. I would say Europe is in between, actually. Purely, I would say Western approach and Russia. So actually, we still have to define our priorities and to implement policy which is really, I would say, independent and much more offensive, I would say, in this regard, in security terms.